Roadster models have always had the power to fascinate car enthusiasts. The relatively low-seated position, an interior that's tailor-made without being too confined, and of course a lengthy engine hood with the seats well back are precisely the traditional elements that we have emphasized on our Z3. Hand in hand with the latest technology, they result in what we believe is quite simply a fascinating new car that's a pleasure to drive. When you see this car on the road, your immediate response is that you simply must have one.
As dyed-in-the-wool fans can attest, roadster driving is the most authentic form of four-wheeled locomotion. One engine, two seats, four wheels, no technological frills, just pure car. And anyone who closes the folding roof has only himself to blame. The simplicity of this concept has been captivating people ever since the dawn of motoring. In 1992, high-tech manufacturer BMW recalled a long tradition in the production of open sports cars and began reinterpreting the subject of roadsters.
Our development approach was as unconventional as the vehicle itself. We set up a whole new project and team structure which involved our suppliers early on with new methods and procedures for manufacturing experimental parts and very short concentrated test programs. In short, this project was exceptionally compact and concise, and everyone enjoyed being involved in it. But what matters most is that this car was produced in a record time of less than 3 years, from the board's approval to the start of series production.
BMW's Research and Development Center. Around 5,000 engineers and technicians work on tomorrow's vehicles here. Exactly 30 of them were needed to coordinate the development of the new Roadster, the team. The goal here is not just to develop a new car, but rather a new organization form, a new development sequence, primarily aimed toward added speed and flexibility.
It's true. Our staff really enjoy tackling tasks like these. They have plenty of autonomy and room to maneuver, which sets this project apart from previous ones. This freedom motivates them and helps to develop their creativity. My feeling is that they get a special kind of satisfaction from their work.
My name is Jürgen Hausmann, I'm 42 years old and in charge of a BMW design studio for car exteriors.
My name is Joji Nagashima. I'm 39 and a designer of exteriors. This type of lightweight roadster is a new departure for BMW, but we still wanted to incorporate the typical features of a BMW into its exterior design. And of course, we wanted to build a dynamic sports car, in other words, with a long engine hood and a short tail.
The technical concept naturally has a bearing on the design, and this is where vehicle development always has to make certain compromises. In fact, building cars is one big compromise. To create a design model, we need certain key data which we obtain from the package department. But it was a completely new experience for us to have the production people, whose business is processing sheet metal, coming into the design department and commenting on our models. I have to admit that they sometimes got in the way, but I'm also sure it made the overall process more efficient.
The conversion of the design began in mid-1992 with the cubing model, milled from plastic on a 1-to-1 scale. Here the designers have their first chance to test whether the streamlining works and whether the design ideas lend themselves to trouble-free mass production in metal.
I never used to be into convertibles, but now I like open-top driving more and more. It's a great feeling.
To try out the Roadster feeling, a first drivable prototype was built at the start of the development process, in the record time of only 6 weeks. But this is just the start of the actual job. Parts must be adjusted, tools and materials acquired.
My name is Herbert Schleiss, and I'm 31. I'm responsible for pattern making and vehicle construction in the equipment, assembly and suspension area. Recently, I've had more dealings with logistics, in other words, the whole business of the parts supply. The general aim is to make us more independent and capable of handling the whole process more decisively and faster if problems crop up, so that we can concentrate on what matters without wasting any time. Because we're a small group, we can make better progress. I can contact the others more quickly and go straight to a particular colleague to sort out whatever the problem is. Things get done a lot faster that way. That's really the main difference between the linear design approach and our team.
My name is Peter Füller and I'm 36 years old. Together with my 3 colleagues, I'm responsible for the body shell, which basically means all the sheet metal elements of the car's body. This is exactly how developing cars should be. Not the way it used to be in other departments. I must say that it's easier now to identify personally with the operation. Now we know the whole car. This wasn't possible before, but...
I'm planning to buy one. At least I hope so.
Schon.
Wir haben jetzt den Stoßfänger.
Of course, 30 people can't develop a whole car on their own. The magic word here is system supplier. Specialized partners who cover complete development ranges, such as a French company which is in charge of the design and production of all the plastic parts.
Oder macht man, ich weiß jetzt nicht, wie es ausschaut, ein Satz neu.
Wann braucht es? So kleine Zeitfrage.
KW 18 ist Anlieferungstermin ZB Stoß.
Muss teilfertig sein in KW 18.
Mein Name ist Herbert.
My name is Herbert Gutt and I'm 34.
Seit gestern
At Department GRK, I'm responsible for development work on the front and rear lids and the bumper systems, including add-on parts such as the center and side grills.
Niere und Türgitter seitlich. Ebenso bin ich teilweise für die.
I'm also partly responsible for the outer skin structure.
Mir gefällt die Arbeit hier.
It's just great working here.
Kommunikation.
Sometimes communication gets a bit muddled because of the hectic atmosphere, but the production man sits there, the cost specialist sits over there, and the man who deals with the interior design has his desk there, and I just consult them if I have any problems with the body shell or the lid panels. The main difference is in the complex nature of the work. I enjoy it, and it's also very challenging, but everything is very close together.
Die kurzen Wege.
Close together primarily means better communication, quicker agreement, faster decision-making, and consequently greater flexibility. The same rules apply to both the outside suppliers and BMW's specialized divisions in-house. Their knowledge and experience are indispensable for the development and testing of the new Roadster, and yet they have to measure up to the outside partners in costs and scheduling. This competition brings, as everywhere else in the business world, fresh wind into the shop. Whoever can do the job cheaper and faster gets the contract. And so the tiny Roadster team germ cell begins changing the whole corporate development environment and enhancing its efficiency. This young man is an open car driving specialist. His sensitivity gives the developers a sense of the air turbulence. After all, the customer's Roadster feeling shouldn't be spoiled by hair root congestion or some similar side effect.
My name is Michael Ninic. I'm 41. I work on interiors. For the Roadster, I was project leader for the interior design. This of course means the whole vehicle, including the luggage compartment. In fact, all the rear end space as far as the soft top compartment. That all counts as interior design, so every little corner and screw has to be attended to. The Roadster is meant to be Spartan, concentrating on essential functions, performance, driving pleasure and comfort, with typical BMW design elements in its character. Ergonomics traditionally have priority at BMW. We have comfort and convenience elements and zones, and we have functional zones. All the controls have to be positioned in just the right places. The comfort zone for the driver and passenger has softer padding, the functional zone here has firmer structures.
The autumn of 1992 marked the starting point for the construction of a mini-series of 13 vehicles made of metal, the so-called Assembly 1. The mother of the little series was built by this development partner in Stuttgart. The negatives for the body parts were milled from the design data. The basic body is made up of about 250 individual parts. The positive molds are then simply cast in concrete. A special paint applied in the thickness of the subsequent material represents the bottom plate, which is pressed between this negative and the concrete positive. That little difference. Metal is not being used here, but rather a laminate of carbon fiber mats and artificial resin. It's just as sturdy and stable in shape as metal, but considerably lighter and quicker to process. The assembly of this carbon fiber body will later provide important information for the production of the first metal assembly, and thus help avoid expensive mistakes. At the same time, the designers are working hard trying to gain a sense of customer taste in 1995.
My name is Maike Hoffmann and I'm a textile designer.
My name is Florian Eick. I've been with BMW since 1988 in the colour and trim department.
I'm Annette Buchter-Krehl and I'm a designer in BMW's colour and trim department. We started development work about 2.5 years ago by defining various target groups. We identified the classic Roadster with the emphasis on casual style as tending to be a male-dominated target group. But there are also modern Roadsters in the latest vivid colours. These appeal more to a female target group. And there's the basic car, which is a very pure model with distinctive trim. That appeals to quite a young target group, men and women alike.
And it's basically a first-time buyer's car, and I'm absolutely convinced that Roadster customers in particular are much keener to make a point with their car. It says something about your lifestyle.
At the present time, however, the developers want to reveal as little as possible. This is why a master leather crafter has been asked to make a cover to conceal the prototypes. Because long before the car is officially presented, the Roadsters must of course receive a further fine-tuning on the road. To make things as difficult as possible for the motoring press, each vehicle gets a cover for the hood and trunk. -6 degrees Celsius and sleet, and that in July. Not exactly ideal conditions for brake developer Werner Bäumer. He'd rather have things hot, to work out whether the braking system can handle extreme pass descents.
Okay, auf geht's. Ja, auf geht's. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, kläre. 4, 3, 2, 1, kläre.
The computer establishes the rhythm. In accordance with a carefully predetermined plan, the same route is driven over and over again. In the course of this operation, a measuring unit permanently records brake temperature and pressure. The subsequent evaluation of these data then reveals that the braking system is properly set up for the size and weight of the vehicle. Even if many parts of the Roadster come from the 3 Series, their interaction with the new vehicle has to be tested and readjusted, because another axle geometry in connection with another vehicle weight and different line routes turns a field-proven braking system into a new setup, which may reveal completely different properties from the ones first assumed. No simulation in the computer can take the place of this road test, because not even the most sophisticated computer is capable of taking all the factors, such as weather, airstream, road surface, or the human factor into account. The reality of active driving is still a bit more complicated than any theory.
And your name is?
Rudolf Brenninger. I'm 57, at least I will be next July. I work at Department GRT, which basically covers vehicle technology and construction. I act as the team spokesman or leader, in charge of planning and implementation all the way from prototype design to series maturity. I was one of the first at BMW to be given this interdisciplinary task in the technical sector as opposed to the development sector. I was probably the first person in the production sector to try out the component or modular approach, which has led to the current project organization principle. Perhaps that was the reason why I got involved in this project, as a kind of elder statesman, which gave me the chance to do some interesting work with a much younger generation.
The set of carbon fiber parts is completed. It is used to assemble the basic bodywork at the BMW pilot plant. The developers will then use this mock-up to discuss the work phases necessary to prepare series production and do installation studies.
I'm Helmut Wick. I'm 38, and my task in the team is to harmonize heating, air conditioning, driveline, engine and suspension components at the sample stage. This task has become much quicker now. All the members of the team are located very closely together, particularly for body shell design, so the distances we have to go to consult each other are shorter, and that naturally saves time. The problem that always arises with special groups is that the one always depends on the other and has to keep consulting it. This can be a very time-consuming business. We used to spend a lot of our time in meetings and discussions, and even when we thought things were sorted out, delays kept cropping up because of some objection or other. Here in the team we can discuss things beforehand, and that saves a tremendous amount of time.
My name is Jürgen Merkert. I'm 45 years old, and my job is to compile and supervise the package. A specific size of vehicle is defined, and all the series production components to be installed later have to fit inside it. The art is to reach a compromise, for instance, so that a person 1 meter 50 tall and someone who's 1 meter 90 or 95 can adjust the seat so that they can drive or be driven in comfort.
Den Sitz so einstellen kann, dass gut sitzen kann und auch bequem fahren kann.
The decision to build this car was taken fairly rapidly, and we were obliged to work on the concept or package when series development was already underway. But everything worked out well because the members of this team have always been located close together, and it was simply a matter of passing information from one desk to another.
I spend most of my free time with my family, and I'm also interested in electronic music. In other words, a keyboard combined with a computer. If your fingers fail you, the computer has to help out.
Ich weiß es noch nicht, ob ich mit der Belastung
I don't know if I could cope with working under such pressure for a long period.
arbeiten kann. Ich möchte versuchen, dass
I wouldn't mind the pressure easing off.
Belastung niedriger wird.
There's no denying that we all have less time for our leisure activities, but you can live with that for 2 or 3 years.
Okay, 2-3 Jahre kann man es ja so mal praktizieren.
2.5 years before the launch of series production, a system supplier presses metal parts for prototypes, still using auxiliary tools.
My name is Manfred Steinbauer and I'm 32. Project teamwork involves appointing one person from each technological area to supervise it hand in hand with the line production planners. This is the first BMW vehicle for which the entire range of pressings has been bought in. In other words, every press steel item.
And these are just a few of them. Around 3,500 metal parts are handmade for the first assembly. Because a large number of analogous vehicles are required for further development, function studies have to be carried out on such elements as heating or air conditioning units. The engine and driveline need to be fine-tuned. Crash tests must be run to prove the vehicle's safety.
The car we're developing is to be built at the new plant in the USA. Developing a car effectively in parallel with the construction of the new plant makes the job much more interesting, but a lot more complicated too.
There's something else completely different about this new Roadster. It's the first BMW in the history of the company to be produced completely and exclusively outside Germany. The company built a new assembly plant in Spartanburg, South Carolina. This underscores the Bavarian company's claim to be a global player and thus independent of currency fluctuations. At the end of this decade, around 2,000 people here will be producing cars with the white and blue emblem, first 3 Series sedans, and then, as of September 1995, the Z3 Roadster. A completely new car in a completely new manufacturing facility. Can all that function smoothly?
Today is May the 13th, and we already have timetables for the new car and the new plant, which ensure that production will start up on time.
Anyway, plant manager Al Kinzer has no doubts. Everything's all clear at BMW Manufacturing.
My name is Wolfgang Schmidt. I'm 35 years old and I'm involved in the planning and control of prototype construction and the initial series of cars from the Spartanburg plant in the USA. I used to be in a general planning team for all BMW prototypes, and I've been working on the new development procedure for building prototypes at BMW.
The body shop at BMW's pilot plant, a mini factory which exclusively manufactures prototypes almost the same way as in subsequent series production.
The new development procedure means that the cars are not now built up individually on a one-off basis, but in groups, ideally by a near-series working procedure along the lines that are ultimately envisaged for production. We did this from the very first assembly on by producing a preliminary concept vehicle first during the late concept phase. In this way, we were able to resolve design uncertainties right from assembly one. Of course, we're dealing not just with facts, but with people. And if you have a bright idea, you need others to back it up and help to implement it. Ideas are only of value if everyone supports them and they can stand up on their own. You have to support other people's ideas because they won't survive in a void. And everyone needs a certain amount of time before he can begin to identify with someone else's ideas and accept them. This also creates space for ideas, and it's immensely satisfying when you get the chance to fulfill your ambitions, your own objectives and the strategies you have adopted, and even to test and live out your philosophies. You can take this satisfaction home with you, so even if you feel quantitatively under pressure because of the time that goes into your work, it's not a qualitative burden.
My name is Norbert Kolb. I'm 41. I am responsible for the wiring and electrical circuits, and I also deal with switches, plugs and wiring positions. I worked for MBB for 15 years on helicopter wiring systems, so really I spent 20 years in wiring. I enjoy it here. It's much better than in linear development. There you're always coming up against the problem that the body is designed first, then the electrical systems, and people think, there'll be plenty of space for just a few wires, we'll worry about that later. Then suddenly, whoops, you hit an unavoidable snag, and it's back to the drawing board. It's usually a question of geometry, the wiring paths, and problems of electromagnetic compatibility. This car is smaller than other BMWs. There's less space available, and so there could be slightly more interference than on the E36.
EMC stands for electromagnetic compatibility. The hermetically sealed EMC lab is where experts on all kinds of radio beams work. Essentially, there are two things they have to find out. Do the electrical components in the car affect or interfere with one another? And what effect do electromagnetic rays from outside have on such systems as engine control, ABS, or airbags? Questions that may mean the difference between life and death for drivers living in this age of cellular phones and satellites.
Das macht das Kombi verrückt, aber es ist konstant.
Mein ganzer Name ist Christoph Schausberger.
My name is Christoph Schausberger. I'm from Austria and I'm 42 years old. I'm an engineer by profession and studied mechanical engineering. In the team, I'm responsible for the overall vehicle plus the driveline and suspension sub-project. This here is a leaving present from my former colleagues, probably inspired by my hobby, historic racing cars. For instance, I've got one car with the legendary BMW M12 engine. The M12 is the pseudonym for the world-beating BMW Formula 2 engine. My first task here at BMW was to make the cylinder head of the diesel engine strong enough. There's a disgraceful rumour going around that I have one grey hair in my beard for every diesel cylinder head we've cracked. There was a time when you were simply responsible for a specific sub-area like pistons, whereas now myself and 3 others are responsible for the complete vehicle. This is naturally much more time-consuming, but much more fun too.
This wiring is not a part of the Roadster's standard equipment. It simply serves to connect the approximately 35 measuring points inside the car to a data access machine. After all, we're testing function here. This idea isn't as stupid as it looks. As a rule, of course, the customer isn't likely to drive an open 2-seater to Lapland. But in the extreme cold of the northern regions, weak points are more rapidly revealed than under normal conditions. This is a test of the entire unit. Do all the parts fit together? How easy is it to open and close flaps and handles after a frosty night at 25 below? Does the engine start without a hitch? Does the heating system get the heat where the driver wants it? How quickly do frosted windows thaw? These questions and more occupied Georg Fritsche and his crew in February of 1994, a year and a half before the start of series production. Does a plastic coating crackle, creak, or clatter? Does the driveline bang on rough roads? Does the airstream penetrate the interior even with the top up? Or does snow in the air intake ducts bring the engine to the edge of heat prostration despite outside temperatures of 20 below and more? Will the ABS prevent the car from smashing into a reindeer? Everything is recorded and reported back to the developers in Munich. In this scenario, Georg Fritsche functions as a kind of John Q. driver with an engineering background, or a tester with customer attributes, all depending on how you look at it. In any event, he helps put a car on the market which spares the purchaser unpleasant surprises. Light test. In the crystal clear air of the polar night, the illumination of the roadway is easier to test than anywhere else on Earth. The results of the defrosting experiment in the frozen Northland weren't very convincing. The windows thawed too slowly and not uniformly enough. Back in Germany, the air ducts are reworked. The experiment is then repeated in the heating manufacturer's climatic wind tunnel.
Schon als CEO empfunden, musste Herr Fritsche natürlich noch sein Gefühl damit einbringen, ob es hier gegenüber der Nordlanderprobung eine Verbesserung gebracht hat.
That's a lot better. Georg Fritsche compares the thawing pattern with his shots from the test up north. Safety first. This applies especially to open cars. Bracing on the bottom plate, a reinforced windshield frame, and 2 airbags see to it that the 2-seater will protect its passengers if worse comes to worse. Other experiments are more aimed toward everyday performance, but they're every bit as important. After all, who wants to show up at a banquet in wet clothes?
My name is Herbert Hennig, I'm 32
and I work in body testing. We look at various aspects of safety, using crash tests for instance, but there's much more to it than that. Functional testing can mean finding out how easily the doors can be opened and shut, or the window lifts operated, whether the body is free from leaks, if there is any wind noise. We have to test such things by technical methods. The most important thing, in my opinion, is to enjoy the work you're doing, wherever you are in the pecking order.
Customers get hold of their water jet or steam cleaner and point it like this and have a great time spraying away until the heater is full of water. All they want to do is to give the engine a wash, and this is what happens. Our job is to build a car that's immune to customer abuse, and we have to.
The customer should naturally be satisfied with his fun car. This is why most of the work is concentrated on the area underneath the hood, in countless details, which keep getting reworked, fine-tuned, harmonized in the course of the 3-year development period. On the outside, hardly anything changes throughout the different development phases on the Z3 Roadster. But the subjective driving sensation has distinctly improved from the first prototype to the vehicle ready to go into production. And while the production planners continue doing their homework, the engineers are already starting to reflect on possible variations.
My name is Mirdad Sagafi, I'm 48 years old. I am responsible for overall quality in the GST. BMW has set itself the target of becoming the best quality manufacturer, and Herr Pischetsrieder's idea is that the quality standards achieved in Plant 10 should be better than any other, which is why we need a special approach.
And this special approach looks specifically like this. The new employees at the Spartanburg plant get their training back in the development phase in Germany.
My name is Paul Grunauer. I'm 43 years old and responsible for production technology and assembly. This means specifically that we say what's needed in terms of production technology, so that the person working on the production line can install components economically and to a high standard of quality.
First time from Bill, you put, this was your first time you put topstick in
the problem areas on the soft top are accurate fit, convenient operation for the customer, and appearance from all sides, but also freedom from leaks, the acoustics and so on.
The developers and production planners work out the solutions to these assembly problems together with their colleagues in the States. First in the Munich pilot plant. Then, as of autumn 1994, assembly sequences are tried out at the Spartanburg plant.
I'm Michael Petzel, 35 years old. I'm responsible in the GS team for complete vehicles from the assembly point of view. An assembly schedule has to be drawn up and checked with the planning department, then modified for the American plant.
What's the most important quality you need in your job?
Good nerves and the ability to stay calm so that the team keeps on pulling together. I wouldn't say it involves extra work. The responsibility is a little greater perhaps, but the workload isn't all that important. The main thing is that the work is enjoyable.
My name is Dr. Klaus Dreger, and I've just turned 37. Together with the central purchasing department, I'm responsible for purchasing activities for this vehicle both here and in the USA. The NAFTA agreement, which the USA has now put into effect, is one of the sets of regulations that we have to comply with. It states that we have to start operations in the USA with at least 50% local content. We have held a very intensive concept competition involving a large number of potential candidates. For example, the Magna company, which is actually based in Toronto. It plans to build a new press shop near Spartanburg in order to meet our cost and quality expectations. If you ask me, Dr. Gerschel has demonstrated remarkable skill in putting his team together. Its members may not match each other absolutely perfectly, but they're capable of working together and developing creative ideas from contradictory points of view, and then putting them into effect together as if they were their own.
I'm convinced that this type of project management can be transferred to other areas. It releases immense amounts of inspiration and energy because everyone feels he can achieve precisely the things he always wanted to.
On November 15th, 1994, the moment has come. The new BMW plant in South Carolina is officially dedicated. The Bavarians have invested $600 million in this new production facility. Up to 90,000 cars can be produced here annually. Team spirit is the name of the game at the Spartanburg plant. The corporate culture here places everybody on a first-name basis, with no private offices, and everyone dressed in basically the same style. Nobody puts much value on status or hierarchy here, but rather on constructive critical cooperation, a keen sense of responsibility for fellow workers, for the company, and for the quality of the products. Every morning before work begins, the production teams discuss their problems. Suggestions for improvements are made, and, if possible, immediately implemented. Starting quality is now, in May 1995, the top priority item. The Roadster should be flawlessly constructed right from day one of series production. This is a tall order, and developers and planners work together with their American colleagues to turn it into reality. The new facilities and tools must be fine-tuned, assembly procedures optimized, and logistics must guarantee that each of the 5,000 individual parts of this car will arrive at the assembly line just in time.
This car was developed from the outset for production here in Spartanburg, which has brought about a dramatic increase in the number of North American suppliers. It now has a local content of more than 60%, which makes it much more than just a German product made in America. It's the outcome of genuine German-American collaboration. And it also confirms our strategic aim for the new plant, namely to make ourselves gradually less exposed to exchange rate fluctuations.
Protecting our environment was a major issue in planning this plant. The most ecologically acceptable paint shop in the entire automotive industry exclusively uses water-soluble paints. To satisfy the different target groups, the Roadster will be available in classic colors like dark green, silver, or red, but also in such trendy, youth-oriented hues as turquoise, purple, or light green metallic. The assembly is flexibly aligned, just as in all the other BMW plants. Roadsters are produced on one line in conjunction with 3 Series sedans. This way the company can react to demand fluctuations. Development head Wolfgang Reitzle, however, has no doubt that demands can be met.
It's a fun car. It's a real fun car.
In September 1995, the great day has arrived. Series production on the fun car begins, after a development period of only 3 years. The 30 developers on the Roadster team had plenty of fun too, but more than that. Their work on the little car changed the face of the huge company. The example of the project team has set a precedent, and in the future the cars with the white and blue trademark will all be developed a little differently than before.
I can certainly see my future as a member of a team. It's such a pleasure to work with enthusiastic, motivated people who make full use of the scope that project management gives them. I must say, it's absolutely great.
Das ist ganz toll dort.